Please listen carefully.
Well, hello, universe. Welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Summers McKay.
And I'm Kristy Jansen, and we're part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to help make it one focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, I'm finally actually home office-worthy podcast. Today is Monday, the 18th of January, 2021. Kristy, happy Martin Luther King Day.
I was going to say the same thing to you, Summers. Happy MLK. We are not taking it off because we just keep wanting to work so much.
You know, it's a day that merits journalism. It's a day that merits conversation. And certainly I love being able to honor it by having a conversation with you. I'm also really delighted to be back at work, although... So in 30 hours, we did 24 hours of driving.
Oh, man.
And I'm a wee bit road worn.
I can imagine.
But, you know, I think one of the things about MLK Day that I love is I love the way that people interact with one another on social media. I love the expressions of gratitude and the reminders of beautiful quotes, and not only just like pull quotes, but also feelings and relationships and things that have inspired them and commitments they are making to one another to make this world a better place, right? To change the world for good. So it's a nice day to be online. And it's a nice day to kind of look at the Optimist Daily and have some interesting headlines, perhaps some headlines about conversations, disagreements, ways of doing them more gracefully. We were talking in our pre-meeting about who was going first, and I feel like we're just diving in. But Kristy, how was the rest of your weekend?
Oh, I had a really nice weekend. Not quite as mobile as you. I did go to the beach, though, which was really so nice to spend that time in the sea.
I heard the beach in California was amazing this weekend.
It was. And, I mean, it's a little funny because so many people are out. And I feel like one thing that this pandemic is forcing us to do is really find our recreation wherever we can. So instead of going to the malls or the stores or the movie theaters, we're being forced to do things in nature and recreating outdoors. And we're lucky in California. I mean, it was in the 80s here in Santa Barbara. And I mean, it was like, it would have been a shame to miss going to the beach. And I feel like, is it really still winter?
Right.
Because it's just these glorious sunny days. I was grateful for that.
You deserved a winter reprieve, a tar on your feet winter reprieve.
We didn't end up with any tar, which was nice. I don't know why. We didn't actually walk on the beach. We found one little spot and we were just sitting there, and we sat there for a couple of hours and just enjoyed it. And so playing.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Sounds absolutely lovely. Well, speaking of beaches, is there anything you want to talk about today from the Optimist Daily?
Yes. And so that inspired my lead story that I wanted to grab, which was about seagrass balls. And the headline reads, "Seagrass balls remove millions of plastic particles from the ocean." And this is from the environment section on the Optimist Daily. I also think it's the ocean section. What they have discovered, and some researchers at the University of Barcelona have recently documented, is that underwater seagrass in coastal areas appear to have an additional benefit in addition to providing habitat and helping to circulate air within the undersea world. But apparently, underwater seagrass helps to trap plastic pollution into natural bundles of fiber.
So is this, just to step back for a second so people get a visual, underwater seagrass balls, is that basically just like ocean tumbleweed?
Yes, I think that's exactly what it is. It's like these like underwater tumbleweeds. So seagrass is a vital part of the underwater ecosystem. It provides habitat. It also helps to improve the air quality or water quality, which is the air for the fish, right? And it's a nursery for like little fish as they grow. But what it also does is that as the fiber of the leaves kind of falls down and degrades at the feet of these seagrass anchors, it also collects plastic. And this is completely natural, not something that humans had any role in. But these researchers in Barcelona have documented that it collects as much as 900 million plastic items out of the Mediterranean in 1 year. So it's the plastic debris that sort of circulates on the floor. We've seen images of that, and it's one of those things that's like, we got to get the plastic out of the rivers so it doesn't get into the oceans, etc. This is one of the natural processes by which the ocean helps to clean out that kind of trash. The source story for this was in The Guardian, and these orbs, the fiber, as the leaves die and break down, they form these kind of balls, which I think is probably the motion of the water helps to do that. And it's all the dead leaves, but it also like sort of picks up they're the tumbleweeds of the ocean floor, right? Yeah. And in that, it's like the Roomba.
My gosh. And this, I love that you said it's the Roomba, because as we remember, my Roomba speaks Portuguese. Not Catalonian, but Portuguese. And that's great.
Pretty close to Mallorca, which is where they did the research. Then the sea as the ocean kind of ends up pushing it onto shore. So that's how it ejects it out of the water, and then, or else it buries it under the sea. So either it's slowly buried in the sedimentation, or the ball becomes something which ends up washing up on the beaches.
Right. And then can be likewise collected and
yes. Yeah. Anyway, so that was my story. I guess because I was at the beach yesterday, and there's lots of seaweed that washes up on the shores in California, and it was just a gorgeous day. And so I wanted to give a little love to the ocean with my long-winded explanation of
underwater tumbleweed collecting plastic. So I loved this story as well. I loved the visual, and having driven across the country and seen out of water tumbleweed in many states on our drive, it was nice to actually return to the ocean and see this ocean story. We are lucky. We are so fortunate, those of us who get to live in California. And you're probably going to hear a lot of California nostalgia from me over the next few weeks as I prepare perhaps to leave. Speaking of tense situations.
Oh, yes.
And challenging times, right? So not only is moving really challenging, but political discourse is really challenging. And we've seen at the Optimist Daily, a lot of people are asking for solutions on how to just approach really trying times, and whether it is the political climate, climate anxiety, or COVID pandemic. All of these things are leading to a lot of intense conversations. And what this headline reads is how to have a conversation with someone you disagree with.
And now, Summers, is this partly why you wanted to grab this? Is because you just spent 30 hours driving?
Yes.
Locked in a noisy RV with you, your husband, your family.
Yes. So exactly. So Kristy yesterday called me cheerily on the phone and was like, "Hey, want to talk?" I was like, "Oh no. Oh, no. This is too loud. The RV is like banging and clanking, and my sole purpose on the RV is to keep the baby quiet so that her shrieks of either joy or frustration don't pain anyone in my family." And there's lots of disagreements that happen. We did okay, actually. We had a lovely trip. I would say the last hour and a half was rough, but other than that, the trip was fantastic. But on an ongoing basis, I do have to have relatively challenging conversations with people that I disagree with. And I love this story because it just talks us through some very basic points that I think are really, really relevant. I'll just throw out a couple bullet points. Kristy, I know you've been in this situation as well. And I think the first part that I love is the reminder that you tell people they matter. Right. So, and this one's just really, really simple. Like, if you're getting into a discussion with someone, don't come at them like you are just there to prove your point. Instead, acknowledge that they are important in this conversation. Don't let frustration get the best of you. Step away, channel your energy elsewhere. And also don't feel afraid to just express your frustration, because that can sometimes break the tense experiences. Acknowledge your underlying fears. Kristy, what was the fear we were talking about this morning in our pre-meeting?
Fear of not being acknowledged, actually.
Yeah.
So it's a twofer in that little snippet of a headline there. But yeah, I think fear it underlies so much of the disagreements. We get triggered because we're all human beings with our personal hurts, and the underlying fears are super important to be aware that they're there and mention, hey, I'm feeling threatened.
Yeah. And then also, if you're feeling threatened, then carry with that. Don't assume that that is the intention. Don't assume the worst, right? Don't assume that the threatening is the intention of the other person. The other person might just be all in their tumbleweed ball of fears as well.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I like this one. Share your sources. I'm not 100% aligned with realizing that that can always lead to a good discussion, because sometimes we're so busy crediting our sources and saying, well, I read it on this and I read it on that. And we know that there is ubiquitous false information. But when you're in the heat of a discussion, trying to point out that one another might not be receiving correct information doesn't always work. What I would like to add to this particular point about share your sources is know your own sources, right? Know that if you're going to say something, that you've got the media literacy to acknowledge that this is a real legitimate source. Don't just read a headline and spout that in any sort of heated discussion. Share your sources, but make sure you've gotten to know your sources. Not I read on the internet or I read on a site, mypoliticsthatIagreewith.com, but instead really find legitimate sources.
And this isn't here, but I think that like keeping from your own point of view and not being judgmental.
Yeah.
That I'm feeling whatever you're feeling, right? And not, so just staying with your own sensibilities as opposed to getting judgmental or sarcastic. And I guess that's one of the things.
Exactly. I was going to say those are kind of balled up, like exactly what you're saying are balled up in the remaining points. Use respectful language.
Yeah.
Show you understand even if you don't agree. Don't defer to sarcasm, which that one's tough for me. Don't be condescending, which I guess that's probably also tough for me. Mm-hmm. Teach and be taught. Remember, discussions with people you disagree with aren't about checkmates. They're about conversations. If you're entering a discussion to prove a point, you're not in a discussion. You're in a lecture. Yeah. So know which one you're in.
The thing that I like about that I like to think about here is, what's the actual point of the discussion? Is it to maintain a relationship or build a relationship, or is it to win points and win an argument? And those two things aren't necessarily going to have the same behavior that goes along with them,
Well, and the outcome of trying to win. So we all want to win in this world. We all want to be acknowledged. We all want, but right now, just like winning an argument is so exhausting and probably isn't going to get you to where you want to go. And, last but not least, thank them for their opinion and have a hug and move on. A socially distant hug. Read the article. It goes much more into detail on really tactical ways you can deploy these skills and get through tough conversations. But the simple fact is, tough conversations are here to stay for quite some time. And in fact, I don't think they'll ever go away.
No, I mean, that's just
a bit lighter.
Part of being a person in the world is there's going to be people who you disagree with on many different levels, whether it's how you're taking care of your kid or, where you should go have dinner, right? Knowing how to have a productive conversation with somebody who has a slightly different opinion than you is a super important part of becoming an effective person in your work and in your personal relationships and in almost anything we do.
Yeah, and part of what we've lost at this time right now is the ability to have those disagreement conversations without leading to antagonism. Like, this is an art that we need to restore. Let's do it. Okay, what else are we doing?
Well, a few other important tips. We'll just read through the headlines because we are running out of time, as usual, on our Monday morning. We have right after this, we do our editorial call. But surprising reason that you should actually turn your camera off during Zoom calls, which I think is something that right now, Summers, you and I are talking to each other over the audio only version of our app here. So that's that. Yeah. So turn off your camera. It saves some energy. Elusive wolverine has been caught on Yellowstone wildlife camera for the first time. And that's a cool creature that is a little frightening, but an important part of the ecosystem there. There's a crib which gently rocks to ease your baby back into sleep. And this is kind of a cool, smart crib. Disneyland will be one of California's largest COVID-19 vaccination sites. a new meaning for the happiest place on earth here in Southern California.
Exactly. Exactly.
Some tips on recycling the pandemic habits that we've all started to enjoy and how to keep them alive in the new year, even once we stop having to be so socially distant all the time. What else, Summers?
So apparently some people are halfway through dry January and there's some tips to help them keep going. Not me. And then this site lets you take control of Canon's satellite and take photos. And that is it on the Optimist Daily today, everybody. Many more great stories to come this week. Thank you all for listening to the Optimist Daily Update. We promise to share positive, solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in this changing world and ensure it is changed for the good. We promise to cover current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offer you the information needed most to chart new paths for all of us.
And please consider, if you're not already, becoming an emissary on theoptimistdaily.com. And for just a few bucks a month, you can support reader-funded independent journalism and be a part of the solution-changing consciousness that addresses our world's biggest challenges with a problem-solving mindset. Please help us keep the Optimist Daily free to all who need it, supported by those of us who can. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Summers, welcome back to California from your sojourn across the country, and we will all be back for tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow. Oh, my cat's stepping on the keyboard. I am so back home. Sorry if you heard that, guys.